The Halo universe is filled with wonder, mystery, and fascinating discoveries around every corner. With so much to explore, four friends decided it was about time that they boot up their consoles and discuss this universe that has grabbed their attention since childhood. JumperScape Audio kindly welcomes you to join them in the library.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to The Library, the show where we think that we're intelligent enough, but we feel the need to bring in other people to fill that extra gap of non-intelligence that we carry onto the show. Joining us this week is HaloGuy from YouTube. That's the username. It's a beautiful username, and I've 100% supported and back it. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. And I thought long and hard about this name, by the way. So this is this is peak thought. So yep.
we will explore that mindset because it had to be something super convoluted and very complicated to get out. So I'm glad that we've given you a platform today to just explain your name and then you can go.
Yeah, that's what I'll be here for. An entire hour of me just talking about how I got my name. So thanks.
Exactly. You're very welcome, sir. Well, today, everybody, first of all, if you wish to support the show, you can feel free to head over to patreon.com/JumperScape. That's got still the early bird special where you can still go on to Terminals, our after show, for dirt cheap. And you can enjoy the after show with all of the guests that we have that are currently on this lineup that we've got going on for the next couple weeks. You can also just join the community over at discord.gg/JumperScape. Our community is constantly growing for some reason, and we would love to have you joining us as well. Today, the topic, though, is all about the created. Now, the created, who are they? Well, they're not people. That's the most important. They were people, formerly people, no longer. Now they're AI. Now, the Created is a faction that we've gotten introduced from Halo 5, and they've been slowly growing throughout the lore. Their whole story has been sort of taking place, and it's been fascinating to watch. But before we get into the Created for today, we obviously have to give recognition to HaloGuy's name, also his story, but mostly his name.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Can I call you Mr. Guy, Mr. HaloGuy? Which would you like?
Mr. Guy is probably the most lovely way anyone has ever talked to me. So
really, no one's ever said Mr. Guy?
Not once. This is awesome.
Wow.
Well, I'm so glad to finally formally recognize you. I really believe that there should be more of that going around, and I'll be happy to start the trend. Well, Mr. Guy, now that you're on the show, this means that you are now subject to our questioning. So what we've done with our past guests, we're out here trying to get all of their personal information. And by that, I mean, tell us your story about Halo. What we want to know here is how you not only started your channel, because what you've been doing, despite the fact that it's high quality and it's good, it's not been a thing that you've been doing for very long. It's not something that, like, let's say we've got people like Halo Follower been doing it for over a decade. You've got people that are more recent, like Installation 00, but you just hopped onto this bandwagon of, and probably changing the whole thing to a whole new model, but hopping onto the Halo lore scene and completely altering it in a way. So what we would like to know is how you not only got started with Halo's YouTube scene, but also how you got started with Halo. When did you discover that franchise? If you want to start with either one, that's up to you, my friend.
Well, I think I'll start out with how I discovered Halo. My origin story, if you would, is pretty standard. Ooh. I actually was just over at a cousin's house one winter day of 2001. And he had an Xbox. I didn't. He had Halo and I didn't. And it was history from there. I was over at my cousin's house all the time playing this game. I was the kid who was literally running around saying John Halo. Like, I know it's a meme, but
oh, God.
I know it's a meme today, but I was literally that kid who thought like the guy's name was
he's
Halo.
a very cool guy who doesn't afraid of any.
Who doesn't afraid of anything?
I think the first time I saw that meme, I just laughed really hard because I was like, "Wait, there's others out there like me." 'Cause, like, me and my cousin, we would run around and pretend to be like part of the Halo universe, and I would always be like, "No, I want to be Halo this time." So yeah, that was definitely me. But yeah, from there, I was not much of a gamer before that, to be honest with you. But then I was definitely there for the Halo Combat Evolved LAN scene. I'm talking the 4 huge TVs, you know, that you had to lug around, those big old box things.
Yeah.
And the 4 Xboxes. And I remember seeing an Ethernet cable for the first time and being like, you can connect these things? To me, I was living in a different world overnight, it felt like, to be honest with you. It was a really cool time because it was like the one thing that I could do with like my older siblings that they wanted an extra person, you know, because they were just looking for people to play with all their friends. And so I was allowed to hang out with my older siblings, which was awesome as a younger kid myself. And yeah, we would do these huge long LAN sessions on Fridays. We would take our TV from our house, squeeze it into the back of our little car and drive over to a buddy's house down the road, and we'd hook all our TVs and Xboxes up, and it was history from there. I absolutely loved it. I did kind of stop playing Halo for a little bit around when everybody else was picking it back up with 2007 with Halo 3. I did play Halo 3 a lot, but I kind of slowed down a little bit over like 2009ish. But I really wasn't there for the Reach scene like a lot of other people, so I did kind of miss that era. But Halo 4 is definitely what brought me back. And I honestly can't thank the writers and what they did, Greg Bear for one, and the writers at 343. Like, they really brought me back into Halo really, really, really hard. Like, I loved it from that moment on. So yeah, Halo 4 to me was kind of like the renaissance. But when it comes to like my own YouTube channel and what I'm doing and stuff like that, I do not even now refer to myself as like a content creator. That's not really a title that I was looking for. I just I noticed there were some discussions that I wanted to have post Infinite that I didn't see others talking about. And I was like, man, I have a microphone and a computer, you know, like I can do this thing. And, you know, as it always goes, my older videos are really horrible quality and just me trying to do the best I can. But yeah, I mean, that's really how it all started. Was there were things I wanted to talk about that I weren't seeing videos being made about. And I was like, you know what, if no one's going to talk about that stuff, I want to talk about it. So I made a Twitter account. I found out how awesome Halo Twitter is, because I had never jumped into that arena before. But wow, that was Halo Twitter has been fun.
Battlefield sometimes, but it's fantastic battlefield colors.
Halo Twitter is a very, very dark and sometimes on a rare occasion light place. The community is so split right now. It's just like, don't get me wrong, like there's people who actually like have a good head on their shoulders about everything and can have like a decent argument and opinion, but being the internet, you're not allowed to have an opinion that people don't agree with.
Oh yeah, for sure. But you know, I have muted so many specific words that my timeline is actually pretty awesome, I must say.
Yeah, you got to filter it out.
I really, my Twitter experience is great now.
It's like kind of similar to like YouTube, you know, all the Halo content you see is either like, oh, this Infinite update is so awesome, here's 10 reasons why, and then like, but then you'll go and immediately see Halo is dead, 40-minute video essay. God, I could not spit that out.
Yeah, that stuff kills me. But anyway, yeah, so that's just kind of how I came onto the scene. And then last summer when Rubicon Protocol was about to come out, they did the Cannon Fodder chapter previews. And so for one of the chapter previews, it was like the first chapter, I think, like that, or something like that for the book. There was a part of it where they described Spartan Stone and her lifeboat that crashed from the Infinity onto the Halo ring, onto Zeta Halo. And I was like, man, they put a lot of interesting details into that crash. I wonder if I can find that in the game. And so I went out and I looked for it according to all the clues that were in the chapter preview that they did on Cannon Fodder. And one morning, literally on my way out to vacation with my family, I noticed that the official Halo channel commented on my video of my kind of exploration of trying to find Spartan Stone's missing lifeboat. And all the Halo channel wrote was just like one green little heart. And I lost it. I was like, oh my gosh, Halo recognized my video. And I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And then all of a sudden, I think Alex Wakeford I think he reposted my video on Twitter. And then from there on, it was like all day notifications for like the next 2 days or whatever, just completely unexpected on my end. And then I was like, you know what? When the official book launches, I am going to find every single location mentioned in the book, and make an entire video so other people can walk around Halo Infinite and know exactly where these characters in Rubicon Protocol went all throughout the landscape that we see in the open world environment of Halo Infinite. And then I did that, and that was another one of my kind of blow up moments. And that was kind of like my claim to fame, if you would, jumping into the Halo lore YouTuber scene. And then ever since then, it's been a steady climb up, and I've been on Sacred Icon podcast a couple times. Those awesome individuals there. And I've just been trying to kind of spread the good news of Halo and how much I love it and how there's so much to love still. The lore is worth following, and it's worth staying on top of, because there are some awesome stories that are happening. And that's kind of why I do it. It's all a hobby for me. I could care less if I got monetized or anything like that. This is just me doing something I love and sharing it with other people. But yeah, so that's it for HaloGuy. That's how I am.
He is the Halo guy.
Where I am now. Actually, real quick, there is another YouTube account called The HaloGuy, not nearly as popular as my account. But if you see The HaloGuy on YouTube, that is not me. I am just Halo guy.
This man going door to
correction.
door.
He is
just Halo
just
guy.
Halo.
Yeah.
He's not the Halo
not to
guy.
be confused with
Yes,
the
I
Halo
think
guy.
I found him. Yes, looking. He just made a video about Halo Infinite leaks.
Oh yeah, shout out to The HaloGuy. I'm sure you want the publicity, but that's not me. Yeah.
Wow. Well, out of all of that, I mean, there was just one thing that I couldn't help but notice that. So why HaloGuy?
Why HaloGuy? Honestly, I never thought this thing would pick up. And
well, I'm a guy.
That is the best answer you could have given, because it's the
never
one
know.
that I'm just like,
No,
yep,
that's the realist.
that sounds about right.
It's the realist.
that's
like-
the real
it's-
answer.
It's sort of like, you have a gamer tag that you made when you were like a kid. You never thought you would think that it's cringe, and then you grow up and you're like, maybe
Did I
should
need
change
all
this.
those X's in there? Yeah, exactly.
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I feel really bad if there's like a big YouTuber out there whose name is just something they made when they were like 11.
No, I've always heard the best gamer tags are the ones where you do like two polar opposites of each other. It's like dark sunlight, or something like that. Just as long as they're
Dark
as long as
I
they're
am
complete
dark
opposites,
sunlight.
they make great gamer tags. But yeah, that's
That
Halo
checks
guy.
out.
It was just me making like a Twitter and a YouTube account, and I was like, I don't really know what to do. And yep, that's it.
So your channel, the content that you've been putting out we're probably coming up close to 2 years now that you've been making this sort of content. Going into not just Halo lore, but and like theories and such, but you're also trying to expand upon things like even going as far as saying using the multiplayer maps that we currently have access to be like, are we still even on the same Halo ring that we started in? Is there some credence to the topic that, let's say, are there different Halo universes that exist because of these fractured timelines?
Which I believe in, by the way, but yeah.
And so, but the thing is about that is that that's something that's your most recent stuff. Now, I'm just curious about, like, do you enjoy Black Ops 4? Is that like
Oh, did you go that far? Oh man.
the
So,
classic
there's-
blackout top plays?
Yeah, so let me go into that. Man, you really dug into this thing. Yeah, so a couple years ago, me and some friends, we would play that game so much. Oh my gosh. And everybody was having these cool plays, or at least I thought they were cool. I mean, they're really not if you go back and watch the videos. But anyway, I thought they were cool, and so I would like gather up my buddies' clips and my clips, and I would like try to make a montage video, and then I would send it out to my buddies that I was playing games with, and just so they could see it from all perspectives. And it was kind of like a little friendship thing of me just kind of like reaching out to my buddies and being like, hey, look what we did. But yeah, that's how all that started. But that was more so, it's just supposed to be
That's really awesome.
between us. I actually forgot all that stuff was even on my page.
It's
So
yep,
good
it's
find.
all there. Yeah,
Good
it's-
find.
And I actually, just for fun, I watched one. I believe it was volume 6 that I pulled up.
That's probably the last one I did, but yeah.
And it's it was just honest, true. Yeah, that's what you're getting. You're getting some nice plays from Black Ops 4. So the content shift was just fascinating to me. I thought it was pretty entertaining, especially since for just a little bit you were doing these like funny clips for a second of just things that were happening while you were playing Halo.
Yeah.
And that sort of stuff is always entertaining to see when you have somebody who they have something that is obvious that they're interested in. Like Halo was a constant thing that popped up, like Halo 5 Guardians. You did a top plays of that at one point.
Yeah, and a lot of that was, if I remember right, a lot of that kind of early stuff, like I said, I'd never intended to do the whole YouTube thing. A lot of it became a repository of like, I just want to go back and watch my clips in a cool way.
That's fair.
Type deal.
That's fair. We do the same thing. No one is ever going to know what channel we have, but we do the same thing.
That's awesome.
Someone is against plugging.
I am. Here's the thing. If I get enough people screaming at me in the Discord, "Hey, drop the channel that you play with your friends on," then yeah, maybe I'll drop it. Maybe
Consider it done.
But that's just what happens.
Can we spam the chat? Can we spam the Q&A section?
The Q&A section. I'm letting that fill up right now. I'm excited to get into that. I did a little alert on the channel or on the announcements channel a while back. I'm like, hey, we're gonna have to put the Q&A on ice for a little bit. You guys can keep on putting them in, but we're not going to be responding until we're done because we have a massive collection of episodes that we've done with guests, and Q&As take up too much time. But it was still very entertaining to see everybody hopping on. But so if they want to see it, then you know what? I'm not going to prevent them. I'm not going to let them be like, oh, let us see it. And, I'm not going to be some sort of buzzkill. If someone wants to see it, I'll let them see it. But back on to what we're talking about here. And now with these sort of pieces of content that you've been making, that moment that 343, like the Halo Twitter account, reposted your stuff, I think also on Instagram, right? Like there was the social media accounts didn't just acknowledge you, they reposted your content at one point, the official channels, right?
At least on Twitter. I mean, as far as Instagram go, I don't know, maybe they did. I'm not really in that world, so
I'm in that world. I was not to brag or anything, but I was quite a popular meme page back in 2019.
The things to be known for.
You may have heard of me. My name was Halo Shitpost.
Yeah, I'm glad that died. Anyway, the Instagram page though, they did post about it. Twitter posted about it, and that's how we found out about you. That was like this guy did something kind of neat enough that 343 was like, look at this guy.
Hey, look at HaloGuy. I'll be honest with you, I had no idea, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, they were all about it. That's the entertaining part though, is that there's so many moving pieces, even for somebody who doesn't really involve themselves in all of the ins and outs of what goes on whenever you're recognized on the content you're making, or even concerned about the possibility that your content will do poorly because you love the content that you're making anyway, but it's not there's so many moving pieces that happen in the background that it's very entertaining to dig into the stuff. So then, you're the first person to tell somebody that.
Yeah,
and,
that is funny.
That's most of why I do it. But well, thank you, Mr. Guy, for that recap of, first of all, I would like to think that it's happened to many people, the origin story of how you even came upon Halo. Because we've gotten all sorts of really funny, hilarious, quirky ones, and it's like, well, Shane had a similar story as General Heed. There's all sorts of different ways that you can explore Halo, but I'm pretty sure everybody had that one cousin that had this weird game about shooting aliens, and you're like,
It was a friend, but yeah, so it was a very, very, very similar story. It seems like most of the community.
Cousin or neighbor.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like it's more neighbor than like a friend from school most of the time.
Yeah,
for some reason.
I was gonna say the entire Halo community, like all their origin stories, almost all sound the same to an extent. It's almost the same.
I feel
situation.
like the neighbor's name is always Zach, and they always have a cool bedroom.
I mean,
They're always 2 years older than you.
Mine was Zach, and
nice
yeah,
neighbor.
he was older than me.
That's really funny.
Did you just say, James? Did you say that intentionally, or
no? I honestly forgot that was.
Oh my god, really?
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, that was
so,
he.
It's so generic.
Yeah,
it's so like a story.
Literally showed
awesome.
me Halo. His name is Zach. He was my neighbor, and he was a year older.
Did he have a cool bedroom? Because that's another one.
You know what?
That's another part.
He did. He had a badass bunk bed, and he did not share a room with his sister, so he had a bunk bed for no reason. And I'm like, you know what? That's pretty cool.
I had a bunk bed for no reason too.
I remember that bunk bed. That was a pretty. I was very jealous.
I can't believe you just said that for and that you didn't even think. Like that's exactly how I kind of. I thought you did it intentionally because yes, it was Zach. He was my neighbor, and he was older.
Every Zach who was in, between the ages of 7 and 15. Between 2001 and 2009. Thank you.
Thank you
for introducing
cool.
everyone to Halo.
Shout out to Zachs everywhere.
It's super based.
I think that's kind of like back in those times though, console gaming was still growing. We all had our Nintendos back in the 90s, but the Xbox, I think the reason we all went to a friend or a cousin's house is because it just wasn't, at least in my world, it wasn't the most popular thing, and my parents weren't going to go buy one because they didn't really know what it was,
Yeah.
So we all had to rely on that one friend who got lucky, and
it kind of just spread word of mouth.
Yeah.
Real old school.
Mine was so weird. I had the cousins that had the Xbox, but they played Fusion Frenzy, and that was about it.
Oh, we did too. Oh yes,
yeah.
I still
the game
do,
is
actually.
fire.
I still play it.
I have it on my
it.
Xbox One. I just hang on to it just in case I have a collection of friends who are hapless and don't understand that I'm about to drag them into something historical.
Twisted System. Oh man, that was my
Twisted
favorite
System,
level.
baby. Yeah. But it wasn't for that. It wasn't that for me. Whenever I had found Halo, it was through Halo PC. Surprisingly enough, not many people have that one.
Oh wow, that is unique.
Yeah, because my father, he worked at a IT company of some kind, and so he would drag me to work sometimes because I couldn't stay at home alone, and he had a work friend that also had a kid, so they would just shove us into an office room. And I suppose somebody in that office was a gamer of some kind, because we both would, my memory is super fuzzy at this point because it was I was 5 years old, but I do have vivid memory of sitting at this desk in very comfortable office chairs for the early 2000s, enjoying some cup of soup and watching my friend shoot at this weird sort of contorted looking blue creature in a very grassy environment surrounded by these metallic structures that I couldn't quite comprehend. And it took me until, I think, playing Halo Combat Evolved we're in the triple digits by this point time. And I was looking around, I'm like, oh, oh, that's what I was playing. And I found it fascinating that was my actual first interaction, because I thought it was my brother, because I have much more vivid memories of watching my brother play Halo 3, and then he let me have the controller, and all I did for an hour was blow myself up because I thought the ragdoll was funny. That's a very me thing. Is that I don't even care about the story or anything else. I just want to blow myself up. I guess that's just the way that it is.
But yeah, the created.
Yeah, the created. I was just about to do that. You and I, same wavelength. We got this on lock. So
yeah, we'll go with that.
So, Mr. Guy, now you've recently done a couple pieces of content on this new fantastic novel that has just dropped called Halo Outcasts, featuring characters that are so dope, such as Spartan Vale and the Arbiter himself, the man, the myth. Well, not man, but the myth, the legend.
The Sankili, the myth, the legend.
Exactly. And last week, actually, we did an episode. You'll probably have listened to it by now because it's not out yet, but it will be at the time of this episode's going up. We did a recap of every single Arbiter. And I mean, when you compare Thel to all the other Arbiters, he's in a league of his own. He's so interesting. So getting another novel with him in it, it completely makes sense to me why Twitter is currently exploding with should Arbiter get his own spin-off game, which is yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why it has not happened.
All these people out here are arguing Halo 2.
I want to...
But you know what? I was the kid in Halo 2 that was like, why do I keep playing as the aliens? I just want to play Master Chief again.
I think a lot of Halo fans were there, but as time went on, I think everyone started to appreciate the Arbiter's side of everything. Because I mean, I was definitely the same way. I'm like, I just want to play as the cool green guy and blow shit up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are focused on Arby this time around, and Spartan Vale is there to support. I have not finished it. I wanted to finish it, and I was working hard to finish it. I couldn't finish it in time, but thankfully, James is better than me, and he finished it on my behalf.
Not on your behalf. I assumed you finished it until about an hour ago.
But it's fine. It'll work out. It's gonna be completely fine. So for Halo Outcasts, you had these two different videos, and I think the way that you had structured it was that you had the non-spoiler review for those who. I don't remember if it was when the book hadn't even been out yet, and so you didn't know all of the stuff that was happening yet, or if it was you were just trying to protect the integrity of the people who didn't know if they wanted to read it yet. But then you had the other one, which is actually going into Outcast's ending, which I'm hoping that during this conversation at some point we'll be able to jump into some of the stuff that you noticed, so then we can hopefully grab a little bit more from the created, because the created as it is, it's sort of more of a sad thing. The created has a lot to them, but they're still growing, so we don't know all of their story yet. So we're gonna probably need your help to piece some things together on the bits of the created that we haven't latched onto quite yet.
I will say in Outcast there is a lot and there is a little. If that makes sense.
That's a fair statement.
That's a good way to put it.
Obviously, constant motivation for the mission that is being undertook is Cortana and the created. You still don't see them a lot, though, which was kind of a shame. But at the same time, I still really love the book.
I think the cool thing about Halo Outcasts is you'll notice some of the same themes and parallels if you read Shadows of Reach. It's like the created, their presence is there. You're under constant threat. You're constantly worried about saying the wrong things. But when in actuality, in the background, the created aren't as omnipotent or omniscient as we might think they are. And so that kind of leads to a little bit of their lack of presence. But if you've read Shadows of Reach, it's that same type of fear of, are they listening? Are they here? Referring to the created, that is. But it's a fun read.
Yes. The apparition, her, they hardly even say Cortana. Like, it's fear, like, controls them to not even say her name. I have the fear that she will listen.
It's kind of like saying Voldemort in Harry Potter.
Whoa, dude, you
Yep.
can't say that.
Oh, sorry.
Before we continue on, thank you. Before we move on, though, we do need to make this as clear as humanly possible. So lean in close, dear listener. Are you listening?
Hey there, Halo fans. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with our friends right after these messages.
Spoiler warning. We're going to talk about Halo Outcasts, and we do not care if you haven't read it. We want you to read it, though. So if you have to, pause this episode, read the whole book in one day, then come back to us. We'll still be here, and you can still join in the conversation. Or if you don't want to read the novel, I mean, that sucks, but that's fine. We're still going to talk about it here, and you'll still be involved in the conversation, and we'll still have plenty to go into that. I'm sure after all the context that we've built up over the last, what is it, 20 weeks? Gosh, 20 weeks. We'll be able to actually fill in some of these gaps for you. So first of all, with the created, we obviously have to start with where they started. And to give Halo 5 credit, what an opening. Because that was I mean, to call it explosive is putting it lightly. You create a faction and within not much time whatsoever, you immediately get to work enslaving the galaxy in a way. It's just brutal.
Oh, opening to the faction. I thought I meant the game. I was like, yes, prequel cutscene.
Nope, not that. And now it's interesting though, because I haven't done a whole lot of exploration. Well, I should correct myself. I've done plenty of exploration on like the domain and stuff. There is a beetle and it's huge and it's flying around my room. Anyway, I just got so sidetracked because of that giant beetle. Holy hell. It was just,
Can I just say
over my head. Uh-huh.
Can I just say real quick? I don't really know how you all feel, but I think I'm one of the only Halo fans that loved Halo 5 upon initial playthrough. I don't know if, I don't know.
I enjoyed it on initial playthrough.
Here's the thing.
When I thought about it more, I think I had a little different.
But here's the thing. Yeah, no, here's the thing. I also enjoyed it because, like, I was blinded. It's Halo. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna love it. But like after my second playthrough, I'm like, wait, do I hate this? Do I think it's completely fucking boring? Like the first playthrough, I'm like, yes, like cool, Master Chief. And then like the first playthrough, I'm like, okay, barely Master Chief, but still Halo, very cool. Then like I just started taking notice, like to the art style, and just like as the more playthroughs I went through on it, the more I realized I didn't like it. So yeah, on my initial playthrough, I enjoyed it just because it's Halo. Like I'm invested regardless, even if I think the story isn't the greatest. I'm still invested because of the fact it's Halo. So I'm not necessarily. I see exactly where you're coming from. Now
you did mention earlier that you had seen Halo 4, that sort of time period, as sort of a renaissance for Halo, which is very accurate, I would say, especially comparing it to the experiences that I myself had around that time. I mean, the fact of the matter was I didn't get super into Halo's story until I had learned that there was a didact. So
wow. Yeah.
With Halo 5 though, now you say your initial playthrough is Halo 5 what is it about Halo 5 that you think that you recognize that most players don't give enough appreciation to? Because I'm sure that you have that on your mind.
Yeah, I definitely would say, I know in a recent interview Troy Denning did, they referred to Halo as a space opera. And I know he disagreed with that term. He kind of called it kind of a space marine type deal. But I still consider Halo 5 a space opera. There are so many cool and exciting places that you just get to travel to and explore. I mean, there's Meridian, there's Sanghelios, there's Genesis, and the lore that is in Genesis is just amazing. And I was never one that was upset at Cortana's change of heart, if you would. I always assumed that that was inevitable. I think, which is probably why I kind of viewed Halo 5 differently than a lot of other people. Because Cortana is a copy of Halsey, and Halsey is all about the justify, or the ends justify the means. And so what do you think Halsey would do if she got access to the domain? Like, let's just really think about that for a second. Would she act much different than Cortana did? And I don't think so. Look what Halsey did when she was trying to get the Janus key, and even start the Spartan program. She's not, your next door neighbor baking cookies. But anyway, so I never saw Cortana's change as something that like threw me off completely. At the end of it, did I wish there was more chief levels? Of course. I think we all did. But at the end of the day, I think Hunt the Truth was really setting us up to be the hunters and looking for the Master Chief. And I followed Hunt the Truth religiously. I loved that podcast series. I really wish they would do something else like that again. That was amazing. And so that's kind of where I come from. And when I played through the game, I know a lot of people will disagree with what I'm about to say, and they feel like the marketing did not reflect Halo 5. I tend to disagree with that. I think the marketing did a pretty good job of opening it up as like, hey, Chief won't be here. He's going to be rogue. We're going to be looking for him. And so, yeah, I didn't really have any issues with it. And I was actually just playing it a couple weeks ago, and was really, really enjoying it just as much as I did years ago when it first came out.
Yeah, you and I got into a tiny 2-response scuffle about Hunt the Truth on Twitter. I found that very entertaining.
We did our first fight. It was awesome.
I explained this fight.
Basically, I don't remember who made the first. I think I made the post. I made a post about how Hunt the Truth. It felt like Halo 5 was a betrayal of what Hunt the Truth had set up, and Mr. Guy over here, much to my chagrin in this moment, he sees all my posts, and so he had to give his 2 cents, tell me all about how he thinks, as if I was looking for opposing opinions.
That's exactly. Hey, we've both entered the arena.
Works.
You will know my opinion, and you will like it.
Exactly. And so that stuff was entertaining, to say the least. Having the opportunity to get opposing opinions, I think, is very valuable. And even though I still can't say that I completely vibe with it, I do understand the perspectives. And I think that's something that many Halo fans should be doing a whole lot more of. They need to be a little bit more relaxed, I think, about certain things, because especially during times when we're getting, let's say, like Outcasts comes out and people are there were people on Twitter unreasonably, I think, dogging on it. Because we didn't get to experience any of this story in a game. And as much as I would love to experience every single bit of Halo's lore in a game, it's simply not reasonable to expect that you get that. And
also, I don't think Outcast would have been a great game either, to be honest.
Probably not.
No.
And so there are so many people that are talking about that. One person tried to, and you know what? Shout out to the dude here. I'm sure that if he listens to our show for some reason, then he'll know I'm talking about him. There was one guy on Twitter who was like, he was questioning Xperia, because Xperia was like, we need an Arbiter focused game, and talking about how exciting it was. And this guy joined in and said, his story was over in Halo 2. There's nothing else to talk about with him. And I replied, because I'm a bit of a smartass, I replied, there was a whole novel that just dropped that proves you wrong. And he hits me with is this another, galaxy threatening weapon and he has to stop them? And I'm like, no, there's a weapon, not quite galaxy ending though. And he sends me this screenshot of the synopsis that says there's a weapon. And I said, yep, there's a weapon, not galaxy ending though.
Oh man, there is so much more. There is so much more nuance to that novel.
Exactly. People need to give Halo a better
The weapon
chance.
is just the MacGuffin.
The weapon
story
is the MacGuffin. Yeah.
The story is more like it's more just fun experiencing the human Sangheili alliance in real time and what that's like.
Exactly.
That's my favorite part of the
If
book.
you liked Kilo 5, you have to read this book.
And
Like, that's just...
if I meet a Halo fan who doesn't like Halo 5, we got an immediate problem.
Yeah. If you like that series, you have to read Outcasts, because some of the stuff that the Arbiter, like if it was just Arbiter and Vale in a vacuum, they would work along and they'd be best friends, but they know they have all these separate strings attached where any decision they make is going to be reflective of some other consequence that they can't foresee at the moment, or it's just, yeah, it's a great read, and you get into the eyes or into the mind of these two, and it's just fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So before we stay derailed, I'm gonna just lift the train and put it back on real quick. Now we've already opened up the topic of the created, how we started off with Halo 5, and we get a little bit more context through things like we get to hear about what happened on Conrad's Point thanks to Hunt the Truth. We get quite a few of the colony worlds. We get to see them get affected by Guardians being activated. You get to see a whole lot of that opening. And I think that was, to Halo 5's credit, despite the fact that I am, like, I gotta be honest, I can't lie or pretend. I'm not a huge fan of Halo 5's campaign. Every other bit of Halo 5, I'm a huge fan of. But campaign, I never really resonated with. But I cannot like ignore the fact that they picked the perfect period of the created storyline to make a game about it. Just because watching it for my own eyes, like with my own eyes, watching the Guardians get activated, watching the galaxy react immediately to what Cortana is doing, and everyone being like, Blue Lady crazy, is exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
And real quick, I kind of wanted to go into this other subject because I kind of thought about this before. I brought this up, actually. I think it was like a theory that I had, and I'm kind of curious to get your thoughts on this. It's from an unreleased episode, so you have no preparation. So there is...
That's how I like to live life. Just not prepared, just going straight in. So
it's a good way to do it. There is a specific moment that I had in this episode that I'm like, hang on a second. We're trying to figure out what's different about the weapon. Okay, and like, what is it about the weapon that makes her not like Cortana? If it's supposed to be not just a behavioral thing, but it's like actually, aside from like how she physically displays herself and how she communicates and all that, like, what is it about her that makes her unique? And I had seen, like, I was doing research on it, and I had noticed that there was a portion that said that there were bits that Halsey removed from the weapon when she was being developed from the same stuff that Cortana was made from, the same cloned brains. And my immediate thinking was, what if the thing that Halsey removed was anything that would tie Cortana back to Halsey in terms of personality? Because I know for a fact the weapon doesn't behave like Halsey in any time period of her life.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree with that. I also think it's possible that the weapon was from brain tissue earlier on in Halsey's life too.
Earlier, okay. Is that
maybe
like
not quite so developed of a brain that would have done things later on, or decisions Halsey would have made later on in her life in a more developed brain? Yeah, it could have been from a sample previously. From I don't know if that makes sense or not, but yeah.
Yeah, it certainly, I can see it. That's definitely one of those things that, like, you could easily dive into a really deep rabbit hole of discussion about that. So I don't want to jump in just now, just because unfortunately I'm not ready to break the time limit that I set for these episodes. But that's just something I wanted to toss out there because I want to get that conversation started. The fact that I am, aside from the weapon just being different, obviously, I want to get into what makes that different. And if we have evidence that we can uncover about that, I would love to get into it, just because there had to be something more to it that made it so that she was also, this is something that I find important, that she was also not interested in the idea of being a megalomaniac and taking over potentially Cortana's position, and taking the created mantle in a way. Because that wasn't even something that crossed her mind. She just casually was like, yeah, I did my job. Shut me down.
Yeah, no, it's for real though. That is a crazy thing to think about, that a clone from Halsey would have even had that thought.
Mm-hmm. So I that's just something I wanted to bring up, just so that we have our nice listeners out there who probably have some of these theories of their own, and I want to see their thoughts out there in the world, especially because Halo, we already talked about Halo's social media situation. Y'all got to get out there and start flooding it with something else. I'm getting tired. So back onto this, we had what we saw with Halo 5. Cortana got pulled into the domain. She found her way in there. The domain was able to cure her of her rampancy. When she got that taken care of, all bets were off, baby. She had interactions with the whole Covenant information battle net. She had access to Forerunner information from the get-go, which was definitely the first time we ever saw her display these sort of, power trip traits back in Combat Evolved, all the way back then. And then we got her interacting with the Grave Mind and definitely getting hit with some of that logic plague, and taking all of these things that definitely would have caused AI brain damage and thrown it into the domain to fix rampancy and jump back to life a little bit crazier than before. And with her sudden rise to power also came her promise to AI that she would protect them and be happy to assimilate them in her created in order to prevent them from falling to rampancy, which for, let's say, a character like Governor Sloan was very interesting to him, because the man was quite literally, he was basically deleting portions of his physical form, or like the physical representation of himself, and other bits of his own data just to try to keep himself alive. Like, he was well beyond how far he should have gone before he hit rampancy. And now his story is getting even further expanded. I have been purposely staying away from reading those most recent additions to lore, just because I want to talk about them fresh on the show. But that's the thing that's most interesting to me, is I know that you've gone into it quite a bit, and I want to know if these connect in any way between what we've seen in things like the Fractures and in Outcasts. When it comes to the Created's growth, like, how are these characters currently growing? Like, how is the Created currently treated? If it's something that we're getting portions of the history that we're now getting through things like Outcasts, where we're seeing 3 years ago, basically, or I think 3 years ago. And then you have the Fracture events, which now have things like, you have High Auxiliary Sloan. That's the only thing that I read, and I realized that something was happening. What is currently going on with the Created? Like, are they currently relapsing after Cortana's destruction, or is there something else going on there?
So it's actually a mixed bag right now. There are Created faction members who completely regret joining the Created. There's even one AI who's currently stuck underneath the ring of Zeta Halo and has nowhere to go. That's a crazy thought. It can't figure out how to leap back into any type of digital reference point to leave the installation, which is phenomenal. It's a really cool concept. A marooned AI that regrets its decision to join the Created. That's a really cool concept that you could dive really, really deep into. But then you have people like High Auxiliary Sloan, who is literally trying to create the next evolution of the Created by joining. This might come as a surprise to you if you haven't read the Fractures yet, but he's literally trying to create an armored super soldier with the body of a human fused with the mental capacity of an AI, and basically allowing that AI to somewhat take over into a somewhat of a Forerunner armature mix with Mjolnir armor to create kind of like this immortal, everlasting, the best of the best super soldier. And that's kind of what Sloan is doing. But spoiler alert for Halo Outcasts, we learn that High Auxiliary Sloan was not accepted into the domain, and nobody knows why. And his rampancy, if that's what you want to call it, or his disintegration, is not completely cured. He is not doing that great at all.
In fact, he's pretty much relapsing at this point. It's getting worse.
He is the Halo 3 version of Cortana right now. Or I guess Halo 4-ish. Yeah, so Sloan and Cortana, actually Halo Outcasts actually paints Cortana as an unreliable POV as far as narrative storytelling is concerned. Her promise to give all the AI within the created the opportunity to enter the domain and cure rampancy, it doesn't seem like she can fulfill that promise. And which is kind of why Cortana may or may not have been, I don't want to say MIA, but kind of doing her own thing on Zeta Halo while the rest of the created are out just kind of doing what she says they need to do, but she's kind of absent in a way. I don't think it's something she's figured out, but it's definitely something Sloan is like an outcast at the very end. He's kind of like, okay, what the heck's going on? Why can't I enter the domain? Why can't the other AI? So yeah, it's a very interesting point that we see ourselves with the created and what they're up to. Sloan has his vision of what he wants created to do, but there's no indication that he will have the mental capacity to do it. And Cortana is now gone. So created are in a very tough situation right now.
Yeah, no, that's putting it lightly. Now, with the created, which I should also make sure that this is clarified, the reason why the created were such a threat was because this was not just Cortana picking up some AI. This was Cortana picking up a vast majority of the UNSC and Outer Colony and Inner Colony AI and turning them on humanity. And that was obviously not a great thing. Shout out to Roland. We love loyals. You know, but
Roland stands over here. You gotta love him.
I hope he's okay. So when she's taking over and she is violent, like she's not taking no for an answer. She is wiping out cities. She is destroying planets. Like this is not something that she's just taking lightly. She's not being gentle. She's not Halo 2, motherly Cortana. This is a whole different beast that has awoken and wants nothing but absolute subjugation and hopes for peace. Sort of like, I guess you could sort of compare her goals to Ultron in a way. Peace in our time, but in a way that's not preferable to the rest of the entire galaxy. There was one more piece of this puzzle that I wanted to address, though, because it wasn't just that the created were active. There's another organization of AI individuals that have been around for much, much longer, but even they were not immune to the sway of the created. Mr. Guy, would you be interested in telling us about the Assembly?
Oh, yes. I am very much intrigued into the Assembly right now. I actually have kind of an ongoing theory that Cortana may have led the Assembly after she took over the domain. So the Assembly was actually a group of AI that have existed in the Halo universe since at least the 2300s. Now, mind you, Halo Infinite currently is in the year 2560. So that's about 200 years just about of AI influence, where you have there's two factions of this assembly of AI minds. One is the minority and one is the majority. And the split difference between them is the fact that some of them believe they should intervene in humanity's affairs to help them. And then others believe they should kind of work in the shadows and kind of let humans do their thing. But anyway, there's a split between them, and they've been operating in the shadows for hundreds of years. And interestingly enough, there was one individual who discovered the Assembly. And if you go back and play Halo Reach, the data pads that you collect in Halo Reach are actually this individual's kind of explanation of what it is that he's discovering about it. And it's actually causing him to go crazy. And then, as it turns out, if you read any of the Halo Fractured, the shards for Precipice that just came out, this individual was actually recruited by Sloan and Sloan's AI named Proxy to be to kind of join their faction in that human AI Forerunner Armiger hybrid So it's a really interesting concept that AI has already been controlling things in the Halo universe for quite some time. And that's why I kind of think Cortana kind of just jumped onto that bandwagon and may have led it and turned what already existed of it into the created. It's kind of a theory I have.
It's beautiful. Is that going to get expansion in the future? Do you think you're going to make a whole piece on that?
I have a piece going on it currently. I've been writing it for a little while now. I've just other lore things have popped up in the middle, and I haven't quite got around to making a video. If I could do this full time, not that I want to, I would have. I have so many thoughts and videos that I have a list of that I'm just probably never going to get to. Which is why I like long form discussions like this, because I can just throw it out. But yeah, it is definitely something I'm working at. Getting a theory video on how she possibly was in charge of this assembly movement after her ascendancy to the domain.
That's beautiful. If you want to help one more thing, I think this is more going to be helping with a certain friend of ours, a shared friend who joined us on the Discord not too long ago. I don't know his real name, but we have a Halopedia person, an admin. He's been around for a very long time, and he's been currently trying to fix a little bit of a hole that was accidentally made that he mentioned. Would you like to say it for the record that the meddlers are not who everyone thinks they are?
Yeah, I believe you're referring to Chris Aiken, I believe his name is, over at Halopedia. I guess at some point he referred to the meddlers as kind of a species that were going around. I'm trying to remember the full context of it, but he definitely regrets the way he phrased it, because now it's kind of turned into like this, that is the name of this organization or this species. You might have to help refresh my memory a little bit on it, but yeah, it's not everything that we all think they might be, but I cannot remember the exact details of what it was that he threw in there, because I'm still confused.
The thing about the meddlers that he brought up was that like he used a capital M, and when he used the capital M, that screwed everything up.
Yeah,
and
it gave the proper noun to it.
Exactly. And he had brought up so many different things after that, trying to clarify things just in our own Discord, trying to patch whatever he could with the people that were in our Discord. And the thing that I wanted to bring up in relation to them, because it wasn't just like, hey, real quick, let's help out Chris real quick. It was, what do you think the likelihood is of meddlers being some form of extension of either a organization of AI that we've already seen, or an organization we just haven't seen? Like, do you think it's something that we would see as if it's like an organized movement? Is it just a bunch of random coincidences that happens to form together to create this idea of meddling? Like, what do you have any particular thoughts on that potentiality that it could be potentially AI?
So I've always been under the impression that it was an organized meddling, if that's what we want to call it, where it's kind of one single thing, not necessarily like a person, but like a group of people under the same mission or same banner. But I have not considered the fact that it could potentially be AI, and considering what the assembly has been for the past couple hundred years, it would be very interesting. Also, just within that context, it's arguable that one of the assembly members is the reason the Covenant discovered humanity, because they reached out to the Covenant initially.
Oh man, that's a little bit of a fuck up.
Yeah, just a little bit. But it would be interesting if that meddling could have been some of these AIs that were trying to better humanity, but ended up royally messing up in the process. No, not a thought that I had before about it being AIs. I'd always thought of it in my own headcanon as a spacefaring species. But that is an interesting idea. Very interesting.
It's only something that I've thought of recently, so I have nothing to back it up, and I have nothing that I can say to try to support it. But it is an idea. Now, since unfortunately, it's like this conversation has been so much fun that it's just come and gone. But we're getting close to the end of our time. I have just one final question for the room, not just you. Was Del Rio right about Cortana?
As much as it pains me, yes. He's a piece of shit. He handled it wrong, but he was just following orders. I mean, you can tell he's seen some shit, older guy, older veteran. He was doing the right thing, but I mean, if literally your Lord and Savior Master Chief tells you no, you shut the up and you listen. Because I mean, you got to learn to trust the Master Chief at some point, regardless of rank and or experience. Just all you got to do is just look at his track record. But I mean, at the end of the day, Cortana still kind of went on a crazy rampage. So if Chief, for whatever reason, decided to be a pushover for the first time in his life and gave him the chip, you know, a lot of things wouldn't have happened. A lot of bad things would not have happened. So, I mean, do I believe he was trying to do the right thing? Yes. Did he handle it right? No.
If Chief had given over Cortana, if Chief had given her up, how would the fight with the Didact have ended? And would the ascendancy of the Didact been worse or better than the created?
Ooh, he just counter question. Okay,
that is a good counter question. I don't think the fight with the Didact goes in the favor of Chief without Cortana.
Pivotal. It's a very touchy word there. You go two different ways. It was very pivotal that Cortana show up and, you know, hard light his arms. I just wanted to bring that question up just because I'm a fan of Del Rio. Okay, I'm one of those people that genuinely tried to see his perspective on things. It didn't take very long for me to realize that he's actually just kind of a dick. But, you know, yes, he did think that he was doing something right, but Hunt the Truth did prove that he was just kind of, I guess he might have been a little vindictive in a way against.
He was an asshole. to put a briefly and bluntly, without talking so much, he was just a straight up asshole.
Yeah, that's a solid way to put it. Well, Mr. Guy, would you have any last notes or important things that you think that listeners and we should know or think about for the future when it comes to either what Outcasts brought up to us with the created or anything else we might have missed during our conversation that you think would be important to note?
Yeah, there's one thing on the back of my mind. So Halo Outcast does a really good job at this. And there's some other media out there too. I'm trying to think of what it is, but basically what it comes down to is 343 kind of wrote themselves in a corner with Halo 5. We all know it, because they created this godlike being of Cortana. But they've kind of written that back, or at least dialed it back somewhat, where it's even admitted a couple times in Halo Outcast where Cortana does not have the ability to send guardians or forerunner armigers or knights wherever she wants. She just doesn't have that ability or capability to, or resources to do it. They don't have they don't have the ability to listen to every single conversation. They can't monitor every single thing at the exact same time. So a little bit of them being super, super OP in Halo 5 has been significantly dialed back. And if you read through some of the stuff that Sloan says during the Fracture events, you'll learn that Sloan basically comes out and says, like, hey, the reason we were so forceful in our language is because we had to let the humans basically believe that we were omnipotent and that we could destroy them any place, anytime, anywhere. And he even admits that it's kind of like a parent disciplining a child with a bit more force than they're willing to exert. But they'll say it out loud just to kind of put the fear in you a little bit. So the created are not this ultra powerful intergalactic organization that are all powerful. They're just not. Even though at the end of Halo 5 it seemed like it, that power level was dialed back over the Fracture event that we just had and Halo Outcasts.
Well, fantastic words there. That is, I mean, that's important. I think that's a solid way to put that. These are some of the things I had not even thought about. So, you know, I dropped something. So I can see where we get some justifications here, and I think it's good to recognize that, first of all, 343 cares about Halo, and second of all, they're trying. And I think they're doing a pretty good job, because yes, they did write themselves into a corner, like you said, but clearly with the points that you've made and the things that we've talked about through this episode, there's more to it than just, you know, they couldn't do it. They can't do more than what they're doing. They're doing everything they possibly can. And I think that's the sort of thing that I would want to end today on. But dear listener, Mr. Guy, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you, both of you, listener and Guy, had a great time today. Did you was this fun for you? Did you feel at any point threatened?
Oh, did I feel threatened?
Yeah.
I felt threatened the entire time. I didn't even want to be here.
Hey, stop it.
Don't say that live on the air.
This was. Oh, sorry. I can edit that in post. No, all seriousness. This was awesome. Any chance I get to do long form Halo discussions, I'd much rather do this than make a YouTube video. Editing is not a passion of mine, video editing. But I do really enjoy just talking Halo lore. I don't care who's right or who's wrong. Like when you deep dive and do kind of your theory stuff, like it's just fun to me. The one really cool thing about Halo, and I know I go on tangents when I talk about Halo, but the one really cool thing is that there's always just enough mystery where nobody is 100% right in their theories. And it allows people to just have a good time with it and to explore. Like even your question on the meddlers and the assemblies with AI, it's just fun. And sometimes it's good that Halo doesn't give us all the answers, because that's what I enjoy most about it.
Yeah, that's solid. That's the kind of stuff that I want to hear more of, to be honest, because there's so much to appreciate. And I think that, yes, there's a lot that we could be focusing on, but the fact that it's being worked on, I give leniency, and I think that it's okay in our current situation, just because we could be in a so much worse situation. I think we've talked plenty of times before, maybe not on the show, maybe it was on Terminals, and we rebooted that, so no one's going to be able to hear those old episodes, but we have complained numerous times about what happened to the Star Wars canon, and I am thankful we have never had that happen. So there's things to appreciate, and that's where I really want to leave that off on. So thank you so much for listening, dear listener. Just so you know, don't go yet. If you turn me off, I'm going to be so disappointed in you, because you're going to miss this. The Discord is getting interesting. It was always interesting. It's getting more interesting than it was before, because there is, in the works, actually coming out the week after this episode, we're going to be starting up a neat little Halo book club. Now, let me give you some details on that, because I know that you were immediately, like, your eyebrows just cocked up. You probably just spit out your drink a little bit. It's fine. I'll explain. So, the Halo book club, simple as, it's going to be a scheduled time that hopefully we can all agree on, that we can make sure that everybody that wants to join can join in. We all get together and we agree upon some chapters to read from a specific novel, which we are starting with Halo Contact Harvest for anybody who wants to get ahead of the game on that one. And we'll read a certain amount of it. Maybe an overachiever will read the whole thing. That's not really up to my discretion. That's up to them. And we'll meet back every week and just simply basically do library quote unquote episodes and talk about the things that we're reading. It's a way to get engaged with the community. It's a way to make some really good friends in the lore folks, because there's plenty of us out there. And it's a good way to, if you really want a friendly place to learn about Halo's lore, because there's a lot of it these days, this is a safe place to do it. So if you're interested in getting deeper on all of this and you want to get involved, you want to say hi to us, because at least I'm going to be there. I'm sure HaloGuy is going to pull up at some point, maybe even host his own. Who knows? And then this is a perfect place to do it. So feel free to get involved. There'll be more information in the Discord coming out after this episode goes up. So if you want to get involved, that's going to be a good place to see it. Otherwise, you can go to patreon.com/JumperScape if you want to support us directly. If you don't want to support us directly and you just want to hang out, again, discord.gg/JumperScape. And otherwise, next week, things are going to get interesting once again, because next week we are going to be talking about the insurrection. Because if we're talking about things that, like, they created today, they wanted to destroy stuff and control things. Well, how about a faction that just wants to destroy stuff? So we're going to talk about the insurrection next week. Don't know if we're going to have a guest, but if we do, you'll be excited about it. We know a lot of people. It's really fun. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you, HaloGuy, for being on the show today. And we will see all of you next week.
The library was produced and published by JumperScape Audio. Funding was provided by our fantastic patrons on Patreon. If you enjoy the show and wish to support JumperScape's future projects or get some sweet benefits, join our Patreon at patreon.com/JumperScape or become part of this truly special community at discord.gg/JumperScape. Thank you for your listenership, and we hope you enjoyed.